inspire, connect.
Resource, growing healthy churches.
Is in relationship for God's mission.
So welcome to this next SCBA podcast, and I'm absolutely delighted that our brand spanking new Interim Regional Minister, Steve Barber. Oh, Steve Barber, so excited I hit the lead. Steve Barber is with me. How are you doing, Steve?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. What an introduction.
Well, you won't get a better one than that, will you? It's great to talk to you because we are just pleased to have you in post. In a minute or two, we'll talk a little bit about what on earth is an interim regional minister and how that's going to work for you and also for the association and your churches. But let's not assume people know who you are. So it'd be good to kind of get to know you a little bit, Steve. So tell us, what's your favourite takeaway, Steve?
Probably some Bangladeshi food. I love Bangladeshi food, although I did eat it once in Bangladesh and everything sort of pales into insignificance. But no, I like, I think most Indian food is Bangladeshi, isn't it? So, yeah.
So do you like hot food? Do you like it really hot?
Not really hot, no. So I can do medium. I always used to cry when I used to have very, very mild curries when I was younger, but I've got more resistance as I've got older.
Okay. And your pastime, what would you choose? If you had a free day, not that you often have one of those, but if you had a free day and could go and do whatever you want, what would you choose?
Oh, I love sport. So I like playing a bit of sport. Not I don't play much now. I play a bit of squash occasionally. But no, I'd go and watch my beloved Man City. And if I could, I'd go and see them.
I was worried you were going to say that, actually, being a Liverpool fan. Are you a pets person? Do you enjoy pets?
We've got a retired guide dog. So his name's Tim. Yeah, he's 13. He retired when he was 6. His owner lost confidence in him. So I don't quite know what he was doing or not doing that he should have been doing, but it sounded quite worrying. So he's lovely. He's a lovely family dog. He's golden retriever and Labrador cross. He went out to chase a fox this morning, but the fox he's going a bit deaf and blind, and the fox just sort of came up behind him and he didn't really notice. So he thought he'd done really well, but I think the fox was winning.
That's it. That is a bit worrying when you've got a guide dog that you can't trust anymore. I mean, what was he doing? Crossing the road when he shouldn't have been crossing the road or something?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, he could have not been going round lampposts, or I don't know. Yeah.
Is he well behaved?
He's getting less well behaved. I think as he's got older, he's kind of got to that level of not really caring to do what he knows he should do. So he's got quite stubborn, and we don't know if he can't hear us. But he might just be ignoring us most of the time. But yeah, it just seems to sort of, well, I'm this age now, you've just got to put up with it. So yeah.
So Steve, when you talk about us and we, who is us and we? Who's in your home?
Yeah, so I'm married to Carolyn, and we've got 3 children, but only one's here at the moment. So I've got Tom, who's 16, and he'll do GCSEs this year. And then my 2 daughters have recently gone off to uni. One's gone for the first time, and the other one actually is doing a 3rd year, and she's got over in Germany doing her. She's got to do she's doing language, so she's got to spend a year in Germany, and she's been gone about 3 weeks over there.
And does your wife work?
Yeah, she's a solicitor. Yeah, she.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but she's worked at home for 11 years. So yeah, she works upstairs. I work downstairs. Yeah.
So you've been fighting for the broadband, have you?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, we're okay. Oh, in the old days, we used to pretend we were each other's secretaries. So if I got a call for Karen, I'd pretend to be her secretary and vice versa. Yeah, and then we'd sort of trot upstairs and take the phone to the other person. But we've now got our own phone systems, so it's all a bit different.
And you live in Bicester at the moment, and you've been at Orchard Baptist Church for a little while.
Yeah, since 2010. That's when we came here.
So how's that gone?
It's yeah, interesting journey. We faced some huge challenges to start with. We walked right into some major issues going on at the church, and the church wasn't aware of them when they called me to ministry there. So the first few years were really challenging with that. And then the last few years, we've been looking at actually how do we reach out to some of the estates, because Bisters's got huge growth going on. There's 5 major developments happening round about the town, and that culminated in the appointment of a co-minister, Helen, and the Graven Hill ministry that's going on there. So that's been quite exciting. And then, yeah, we've, like everyone, I think we've been going through the challenges of COVID, and what sort of church will we be? We've come through, we're back with services, we're not fully back, and just seeing where things are going to settle. And it seems very uncertain at the moment where that will be.
Have you always wanted to be a Baptist minister, or sense the calling of God? What's the story behind that?
Yeah, it goes, I think from the moment I became a Christian, I sensed God's call on my life into some sort of Christian service. I didn't know it was ministry at that time. So I was converted from a non-Christian background, and a friend took me to a youth club, and very quickly, actually, within about 2 months, I went from total non-belief to being a Christian, knowing what I believed, having gone through sort of all the arguments in my mind as why I shouldn't believe, or what it meant if I did believe. And at that point, I sensed almost from the off that actually God was calling me into some sort of Christian service. So, yeah, and that stayed with me. It was some years, it was probably another 8 years then until I actually went for ministerial training. In fact, might be 9 years, yeah. But that sense stayed with me all through those years.
Well, because what were you doing before you became a Baptist minister then? Was it a teacher? Was that right? Have I?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did 5 years of teaching. I went to university, then did 5 years of teaching. I did a year as an intern for a church, which was really interesting. That was partly to test out the calling. And at the end of that year, I really, the last thing I wanted to do was be in any sort of ministry. It was because it was a tough year, and it took all the gloss off. I think I'd had quite an ideal sort of idea of what ministry involved, and you'd wake up and you'd just sort of float along with God's power empowering you through the day. You do this over here and you do that over there, and you'd see God work in amazing ways. And actually, just the routine and the challenges of it were difficult. And the end of the year, I actually. Yeah, I think I felt quite negative about it. I really sensed God call, or reaffirm his call to me. There was a particular moment where I really sensed him say, you're still called. Not yet, you're not to do this yet, but you're still called. So, and then actually when, knowing it wasn't yet, I then trained, I did teach training and did 5 years teaching maths at a secondary school. Which was great fun. Really enjoyed that.
So let me bring you up to today. You've just kind of started this role as an interim, part-time regional minister. That all sounds quite complicated and tricky. But what does it? I mean, tell us the journey of what's brought you into regional ministry, or one foot into regional ministry, and how you see that kind of working out.
Yeah, I've been a minister 20 years now, 21 years. And it's been in the back of my mind for a little while whether regional ministry would be the step God wanted me to go into. And actually, I love local ministry. So not 100% certain whether I want to leave local ministry. I particularly like developing preaching series. I like the pastoral work. And the opportunity came, the association were looking for someone just for 12 months and someone who would do half time. And that really gives me a chance to test out perhaps a longer sense of calling to regional ministry. And the church very kindly have released me. So I'm seconded into this. the church have released me for 12 months into this role. It's ideal. It gives me a chance to test that calling. I hope that I will be of some help and encouragement to the churches and to the team. That's the plan. There seems to be a lot to learn and a lot to do, but I do hope that God will use me to bring his encouragement to the churches. I think that's first and foremost what I would hope to do in these 12 months.
I think when we talked about the possibility of someone being seconded for an interim period to do this kind of role, I must admit, in the back of my mind, I wondered what on earth, what church or situation would be willing to give up their minister part-time. So I'm actually really amazed that Orchard Baptist Church will either want to get rid of you partly, that could be the case,
it's halfway
or actually or partly, or maybe it's more recognising that they want to share some of the resource that God has given them with other churches. So I just wondered how that conversation went with the church, whether they all cheered and said, "We've been waiting for you to go for us, leave us all." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't want them to be too enthusiastic about the idea. No. They've been amazingly supportive. I think they sense there's something of God in this story. I think when I talked about it, I was enthusiastic, and they wanted to embrace that and release me to this. I think they do see, although we wonder whether through this it actually might unlock something for the church as well. And there was, when we talked about it, first of all, we said, maybe there will be things that will emerge that wouldn't emerge if I wasn't if I kept doing everything that I've done up to this point. So I think we're hoping that might happen as well, and trusting that God would take, because I've got less time, there's less to do, but actually we might find other ways of doing things, or other people who we haven't looked to do things. So we there was a sense of faith there that God would have a good purpose for the church within this, as well as a releasing of me to do this role.
Steve, I think you're closer to what the original kind of messengers within the Baptist family were like, because they were mainly from the local, weren't they? They served a local church, but then kind of travelled to other churches to bring messages of support and encouragement and news and a discussion about theology and so forth. And it feels like you're more grassroots than some of us are, which is a good thing, I think.
I think it's interesting having I've now got a foot in both camps, although I don't feel I put it down yet in the regional ministry team. I think I'll find how to put it down in the next couple of months. But it is interesting to see things, I guess, from two different perspectives. I don't think they're from two different sides, but from two different perspectives. I'm hoping that will have some advantage to the role. I've never felt, I don't just say this because I'm talking to you, Joth, but I've never felt the regional ministry team has been detached from what's going on at ground level. So there's certainly no sense of that. But I do hope, my own experience will have some benefit to the role.
Yeah, I think we can get detached, though. I think you can be in regional ministry for a period of time when the local is a distant memory, isn't it? And for me, it's 4 years ago now. So I think it's really healthy for us as a team to have you come on board and bring that refreshed local view into some of the conversations that we're having, particularly at a time when we're kind of thinking of what is the strategic future for the association in the region. So I think you come at a really precious time, and your contribution to that will be interesting and helpful, I think. Steve, what I'm interested in also is your perspective of associating together. I mean, what you wouldn't do this role unless you believed in the strength of kind of linking together and being unified and supporting each other. But what is your perspective, and what is your passion for that?
Yeah, I think it's got to be at the local level, hasn't it? We've got to take some responsibility more responsibility for each other in some situations. So some churches are doing this brilliantly, but I think we've got to recover this idea of actually, I am concerned about what's going on in those churches that are very close to us. We're concerned about what's happening, what's not happening, and I think it's at local level, which is facilitated, I would feel, by the association. I was interested. We had some discussions last week. I was interested by one comment where, it's not about building an association. It really doesn't matter whether the association is particularly known, as long as it does what it's there to do, which is actually to enable the churches to function well, and the churches function well when they're in relationship and this interdependent relationship with each other. So, and I would hope that more and more we can perhaps in some situations recover that sense of interdependency, and really learn to support each other and share good practice and inspire each other with what's going on in our different congregations.
So Steve, as you start on this year's journey, and it's only a year, I mean it's a year interim, we don't know what the future entails after that, both for you or the association or Orchard Baptist Church either, but we entrust that into God's care. But as you start this journey for a year, what's your hopes, what's your dreams, what's your prayer for you, but also for the churches that you'll be serving and be meeting up with? Yeah,
I suppose I'm realistic that my time is limited, and both it's limited in terms of it's 50%, and it's limited in terms of how long I'm here for and how much can be achieved. I think I would say I would really hope that the Lord will use me to encourage, to strengthen, to help churches where that's most needed, and just to serve alongside. I think through that as well, I think I will learn an awful lot, not just personally, but from the practice of the other churches, and just seeing the good things that God is doing. I think I've already seen some of the blessings, and just hearing some of the stories of things that are going on. So I see it largely as a year of encouraging and supporting where that's needed and where that's possible. I don't think I could, in 12 months, realistically, I don't know, perhaps envision something bigger than that. So it's largely about service, I think.
But you join at such a crucial time of transition and change. And it seems to me that you're actually a person, you've taken a church through transition. You are happy with finding a different way of doing ministry, stepping into this year, which is a very different style or look to it and feel to it. And so through a time when we're in a period of uncertainty, I think you're going to bring something that helps churches and ministers kind of engage with the transition that may be coming.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you sense that? What I'm saying, I think, is this could be a significant. It may not be a long period, but it could be a significant period of supporting people through what can be quite a big change.
Yeah, I God has ways and plans, doesn't he, in moving people and experiences together. If we're listening to him, so I pray and trust that will be the case, and trust that God will bring about his purposes for all of us in this.
Well, I know from my perspective, Steve, just delighted that you're joining the team. Wasn't so sad to see Dave go, and you'll never replace Dave, but you never would want to, would you? Really, in a sense, Dave will always be Dave, and Steve will be Steve, Joth will be Joth. But absolutely delighted that you're going to share the load within the association, but also know that our churches, particularly in the northern part of our association, have you available to them, and we're praying for you. As you, I'm sure, are praying for the churches, and we pray regularly for them. We're praying for you as you serve them, and enjoy it. Have fun. There will be days when it's not so fun, but in those days where you see the blessing of God, rejoice in that.
Thank you. I know when I was asked a question when I came to Orchard Baptist. It was about my preaching, and I basically said, well, I will be as good a preacher as you are good at praying for me to preach well. And I think that's true, isn't it? I mean, actually, I really covet people's prayers. And I also promised that I would be praying for the churches in the northern region, and will commit myself to do this and pray for the ministers and those in leadership of those churches as well.
Cheers, Steve. It's great to chat to you.
Thank you, Joth.
And enjoy the year.
Thank you. God bless.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. Just to remind you that we are actually gathering face-to-face on November the 8th, Monday, November the 8th, when Stephen Gork-Roger will be with us, thinking about post-COVID church. So it'd be great to see you. You should have received an email in your in-tray. If you can't find it, check your junk mail because it may be there, and sending that booking form to Amy ASAP so you don't miss out. Hope to see you there, and thanks again to Steve for chatting with us today.
Inspire, connect
Resource. Growing healthy churches.
is in relationship for God's mission.